Yes, everybody, welcome back to a brand new match preview on Talking Wolves. Hope you guys are keeping well and safe. Wolves have the short trip to Villa Park this weekend to take on Unai Emery's Aston Villa, a team in serious form at the moment, up against Wolves who are really struggling to find a win as it stands. But hopefully, luck can change on Saturday. As always, if you're watching on YouTube, be sure to hit the like button down below and subscribe to the channel. If you're listening on the podcast on Apple, Spotify and the others, be sure to leave us a lovely review as well. And before we kick off, our channel partners over at Football Prizes have another, well, it's the same as last week actually. The competition is still running for the dual signed and framed Mario Lemina and João Gomez shirt. So if you want to check that out, be sure to use the link in the top of the description. But like I said, Wolves on the travels this weekend into Birmingham, into Villa Park, who has to face off against Aston Villa, who are on decent form, good momentum, and just won in the Champions League quite comfortably as well. And not the things that you want to hear when you're in a little bit of a downward spiral. But sometimes these things work in Wolves' favour, and just a kick up the backside for Gary O'Neill's side, and something might just click and all happen. Who knows? But I said it on I think I might have mentioned it later on in the opposition perspective, but part of me just feels, last season when our form just changed. It was about this time last year. We lost out to Ipswich in the Cup, and then there was a bit of I don't want to say overreaction because I think it was a frustrating how we lost that game, but there was a bit of a reaction from the fans at saying, right, Gary O'Neill needs to change something here. He did change. He changed to a back five. Look, I can't see that happening this weekend, but he changed to a back five, and Wolves had a really, really strong run after that. This week, we lost out in the Carabao Cup. Who knows? A win this weekend, and I think our luck and fortunes may well change again. Aston Villa are a very good team. They're learning, and they understand now how to control football matches very comfortably. And it's up to Wolves, really, to just try and grab this game by the scruff of the neck and take those chances, because we've created opportunities, just not been ruthless enough in front of goal, but also we're conceding a lot of chances, so that also obviously needs to change as well. In Gary O'Neill's press conference today, we had confirmation of a few players. Obviously, Boubacar Traoré still out injured with a long-term injury, alongside Sasha Kalajdzic. But Daniel Bentley won't be part of the team. Not that he was going to start, but he has fallen ill, so you would assume Jose Sarr is going to be on the bench with Sam Johnston starting. Jean-Rick Bellegarde did have a little bit of a knock and missed this week's game against Brighton, but he's back fit and available. But the two doubts are Ryan Ait-Nouri and Totti Gomez. Both of them missed the game midweek as well, and Gary O'Neill still said there's going to be late checks on them. They are going to be training as of Friday afternoon to see whereabouts those two are. However, I believe it was said on by Liam Keane and Nathan Judah that Ait-Nouri is doing some interviews with Sky this afternoon, so may well be part of the still be part of the squad tomorrow. But we'll wait and see. I think it's very hard. I will give my predicted lineup now, but it's very hard to predict player for player. I normally get these very close, but I could be completely wrong tomorrow, to be completely honest. I think Sam Johnston's a cert to start in goal. I think Mascara, who should be fit alongside Dawson, is probably definitely going to be the back two. Semedo as the right back. Left back probably depends on Ait-Nouri's fitness and Totti's fitness. I think if Totti is fit, he'll probably start as the left back. Ait-Nouri would probably start if he's fit, but it may well be Doc. So I'll go with Ait-Nouri for now. Actually, no, I'll go with Doc at left back. Midfield three of... No, I will go. Ait-Nouri, sorry. Ait-Nouri at left back. Midfield three of Andre João Gomez and Lemina. And then a front three of Matheus Cunha, Jean-Rick Bellegarde, who I think will be fit, and Jorgen Strand Larsen up top. But that could so easily change. You could have Matt Doherty in there. You could have Tommy Doyle, who I thought was fantastic during the week. Gonzalo Guedes, Gary O'Neill did talk about and said that he was pretty impressed with his impact at Brighton, but still not quite fit enough to start a game, but certainly hopes he can make an impact off the bench. He's just a little bit of a nuisance, and if things, again, fall for him in the right areas, a couple of times where Gonzalo found some really nice areas of space against Brighton, and the ball just got trapped under his feet, or the first touch wasn't good enough. But I think he certainly can be a nuisance. He missed a good chance I don't know if it was against Arsenal, maybe the last pre-season friendly as well before the season started. So he gets in the right areas, Gedge. So he's just got to take those opportunities. But really interested to see, and we need a reaction, don't we, guys? We need that reaction. Been a disappointing start to season, out of the cup. Throwing away the goal lead last weekend against Newcastle. If we can get a win, especially against Aston Villa, I think a lot of the pressure will lift. And really, we could go on a decent run from there because we've got some winnable games, or not winnable, but more favourable games over the next few weeks or so. I know Liverpool's a tough one, but Brentford away in a couple of weeks is definitely a game that we can earmark as winnable possibly, but we'll wait and see. But I spoke to Luke from the UTV podcast to get the Villa perspective ahead of tomorrow's game. So then, guys, we joined with Luke from the UTV podcast, Aston Villa fan. Luke, how you keeping, man? Thanks for jumping on again.
Yeah, great, mate. Thanks for having me back on.
That's right, mate. I said we did a video on Luke's channel if people to go check it out after, but I said that I'm a little bit jealous of Aston Villa at the moment because, from the outside, you may correct me if I'm wrong. From the outside, it's looking good, mate. Champions League football, you've just won during the week, but how is it? How's the mood amongst the Villa fan base at the moment? How you kicked off this season?
Oh, honestly, it's a dream. It's the best I've ever experienced supporting Villa. I'm 35, too young to see us win the League Cup or what the double League Cup we won in the 90s. And yeah, the promotion stuff was good, but to get your club and to be challenging around the top four and playing in the Champions League, and that first game against Young Boys, just probably a bit like you watch the Champions League all your life, you see them lining up, Man United, Arsenal, Chelsea, Liverpool, and you're like, I wish we could do that. And to see your team there, it just fills with like pride, really, of what it took to get there and how good you have to be to get there. And just being in it now, it's like amazing. Like our next Champions League game at home, it's against Bayern Munich. Like I
Yeah.
never thought I'd ever be at Villa Park watching Bayern Munich play Villa in a competitive game. So yeah, it's the best at the minute for me.
Yeah, I remember when we were in the Europa League, and even when they were coming out and I heard that Europa League anthem, I was like, wow, that's like amazing. But I'd assume, if you weren't at the away game, if you go to Villa Park, you hear that Champions League anthem, that's going to be a serious feeling. I think a lot of people will get goosebumps at Villa Park when you hear that, because that'll be amazing. And Bayern, a bit of a tough game following their start to the campaign. But I think now, like I said, very jealous, but it is good to see local team, someone outside sort of traditional top four and top six, in and amongst that sort of competition. It's good. But in the Premier League, how do you think things have gone so far? I mean, the most recent game was that comeback win over Everton. But how have things kicked off for you boys in the league?
Yeah, pretty similar to last year, really. We've just carried on and it evolved a little bit. First game against West Ham, tough game, played well, pretty much dominated the ball. Played Arsenal. I think we probably should have got something from it. Watkins had two massive chances, and if he takes one of them, it's a different game. And then away game against Leicester, then we beat Everton, which you'd think, okay, it's going to be an all right game at Villa Park, and you're 2-0 down, and you're thinking, oh my God, this weren't like in the script really, and you have to come back, and just what a goal to come back. And I think one of the big things for me with Villa at the minute as well is that we don't have to play well to win, and I think I've always looked at the good teams and thought, you okay, look at you guys sort of this season, you've played well in games and lost. And that's the worst feeling in the world. And I think if you can be that side that can play bad and still win, then I think that's a pretty decent trait to have occasionally. So I think that's been a bit pleasing as well. So yeah, it's just going well, and just like I say, continuing from last season, really.
Yeah, I was we talking on your channel about the momentum and sort of our negative momentum from last season sort of carried on into this year. And it's almost the opposite for you guys, where you had that positive run, you got yourself into European football, and that's carried on as well. And there were some changes over the summer. There've been certain players moved on. Douglas Luiz, Moussa Diaby as well was another one. What were your thoughts, and what were the sort of what was the thoughts amongst the Villa fans about your transfer window? Are you happy with that? What sort of players have you guys brought in that are catching the eye so far, if any?
Yeah, I mean, we knew one had to go for PSR, so one
Yeah,
of our big players had to leave, and I think as a fan base, we all looked at it and thought, well, which one would we be
yeah, be
kind of
happy.
happy to go? And it was probably Luis. We don't want to get rid of Martinez, we don't want to get rid of Watkins, we don't want to get rid of Pau Torres, so he was probably the one that we were sort of like, okay, it's all right. I was a bit sort of frustrated with Diaby going because I don't think we really wanted him to go, but I think
Yeah,
we have to abide by PSR and UEFA's rules. And I think
of
with
course.
UEFA's financials, we had to sort of still do something as well for that. So Diaby went. And then what we brought in Matson, who I think hasn't really played much yet in the Premier League, but I think he's a really good left back. And we brought in Onana, who's just
Yeah,
hit the ground running and been a player that I've always looked at and thought there's something better than what you're showing there. And Emery really improves players, and so those two big ones were really pleasing. And we brought in Rogers in January, who's just gone on another level. We brought in a couple of um, Italian lads with the um, money with Louise. So we bought in Baronetto, who's gone out on loan. We bought in Ealing Jr., who's
yeah,
English. He's gone out on loan. We bought Dobbin from Everton. He's gone out on loan. And then we've bought back Jaden Philogene. So I think
mm,
that was pretty much all our business, really. So we could have probably have done with a right back, but I think the way Emery is at the minute, he sort of says, well, if nobody comes in and improves the squad, then we're not making any signings. So I think that's just where we're at, really.
yeah. I think that was a similar sort of outlook that Wolves had really this summer, and I think a lot of fans were frustrated because we weren't signing players. But I think behind the scenes, Wolves were saying, well, if you can find us someone of decent value that's going to directly improve certain players in this team, I think you'll do well. I think the market in certain areas was so inflated, with some players, but I think there was still value out there. I think touching on two things you said there, I think Rogers is an excited player for the value that you boys got him for as well. I think the Championship is continually churning out this talent, and Premier League clubs are going to start to look at it even more than what they are now. But it's interesting what you say about Onana, because I thought the same. I thought when Everton signed him, obviously a lot of hype around him, but when he played at Molineux, I mean, Everton weren't great. Played at Molineux last year, I thought he was awful. I thought he was a lot better than this. But like you said, in certain systems, under certain head coaches, players just, it seems to click for them. So I think that midfield battle, mate, will be interesting on Saturday. With the likes of Andre Lamida and João Gomez, if the players and some of the boys that you have. One of the interesting ones that I'd like to talk about is the striker situation as well, because Ollie Watkins went to England with the Euros, got a massive goal for him as well. I'm not sure if he's got a slight knock. Maybe you could tell us about that. But John Duran as well, who's almost his second choice at the moment, but very close to move to West Ham. But seems to be firing, seems to be on some serious form at the moment. Do you think Duran is likely maybe to start on Saturday ahead of Watkins?
I don't think so. I think Emery after the game said Watkins was okay. He's been pictured in training, so I think
Mm.
Watkins has had a bit of a knock, but I think he's okay really. But yeah, it was a really interesting one because Duran has been a bit of a nightmare behind the scenes last
Oh, okay.
season. He
Yeah,
was he was an absolute nightmare, and just it looked like he was going. He'd done the Hammers sign on an
that was
Instagram
crazy. Yeah,
story.
that was crazy.
Honestly, he was off. Oh, I thought. But then we rejected a big bid from West Ham, and it feels like he's come back and he's a completely different person.
Mm.
He's fully on board. He's listening. He looks happy. He's working with his teammates. A weird thing that this is so minor, but it really infuriated me, is that every game last season at half time, he'd always come out without his bib on, and
Oh, no.
everybody would have their bib on, and he wouldn't have his bib on. The bibs
Yeah,
that
yeah,
go out
yeah,
half
yeah.
time, right? And he'd never do it. So I always made this thing of look, I don't understand why you can't toe the line and just do what everyone else is doing.
Yeah.
But then this season, he comes out, bibs on, warming up, he's doing it properly. So you can really see that there's a proper shift in him. And honestly, he's unbelievable. Like he's finishing. The goal everyone's probably seen it at the weekend, but he scored a disallowed goal against Young Boys in the Champions League, and that finish was just unbelievable as well. So he's a big threat, and we've got two strikers who probably should both be starting games, and yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how it sort of like unfolds.
Yeah. I know you said sort of he was a nightmare behind the scenes. What was he doing? Just being like misbehaving, doing certain stupid stuff in training, or?
Yeah, like you just hear like he takes his phone in the gym and
Uh,
goes on live for about 5 minutes, and then he switches it off and answers the coaches back, and just his general attitude. McGinn did an interview after, I think it was the Liverpool game, where we came back. I think we were 3-1 down, and we came back 3-3. Last home game of the season, McGinn did this interview, and he was like, "Look, like it is a nightmare. He needs to sort himself out. Like he needs to just get on board, basically." And it was a really like telling interview. He was like, "Bloody hell, McGinn,
yeah.
like he's proper like sort of like having a pop at him." And ever since he's come back now, he's just like a different person.
It is weird with some players, and I think I don't mean any disrespect by this. I think players like Mario Lemina had that sort of reputation when he was younger. I think at Southampton and Juventus, he had that reputation, and I think it sometimes, and thankfully for Duran, it's happened a lot earlier in his career. It just clicks. That he thinks, right, I need to actually get my head down here because to have a proper good crack at it. I'd agree with you. The whole bib thing, that's just him trying to bend the rules, just trying to be different, just for the sake of it. Whereas, hopefully in the summer, whether it was that bid from West Ham that was rejected, hopefully Emery or someone close, in the hierarchy sat him down and said, look, if you want to be part of this football club, you really need to knuckle down. And thankfully for you boys, it's working so far. I know that I was on our main podcast this week, but they were talking about Villa, and I think it was Matt talking about John Duran's like his ball striking ability, and it sounds strange for a footballer, but the way he can hit things so sweetly as well. It is a bit worrying that if Watkins isn't firing on Saturday, that you could bring on someone of that quality off the bench as well. But in terms of quality, like, type of football, the style of football, has Emery just pretty much kept everything the same as last year? You just like I said, continuing your form and your style from last year as well.
Yeah, pretty much. He's tweaked it a little bit with our build up playing out from the back. He's using midfielders a little bit more, really controlling games. But we're becoming like quite a mature team as well. Like the performance, yeah, against young boys, some people can say, yeah, it's only young boys, whatever. But we saw from the Conference League that there's no easy game in Europe. You can have a
Of course,
test
yeah.
against absolutely anyone, and I don't know. It just felt like McGinn again and Emery were talking after the game, and they were talking about like we were 2-0 up and we really wanted to like just kill the game, slow the tempo, and it's like we're able to do that now. And I think again that sounds pretty nothing really, but it's like all like those little percentages of what we're trying to do. It's just working, and the team are sort of like getting a lot more confidence, working together. Again, like I say, sometimes not playing the best and winning, and just we've got that fight back to be 2-0 down and come back. So yeah, we're just playing like really well and sort of like just controlling games, which I think
Mm.
in the Premier League is quite difficult to do, but with Emery we're able to do it.
Yeah, I think so. Most of the points you've made there as well. I think as long as you don't make it a habit, I think even when you're winning games, when you're playing poorly, I think that's a big sign. And the fact that I think Arsenal did it. I know they still haven't managed to cross that hurdle and win the Premier League title, but you can see Arteta changing things. Sometimes even being a little bit more defensive to make sure you win football matches. But even like last week, for all we would say, being 2-0 down and still having the fight and desire to come back and win that game 3-2 is a good sign for Villa. But Luke, if I have to trouble you for a score prediction for Saturday, what are you thinking?
Um, I've, I think it's going to be difficult for Wolves because I think of how we like dominate games.
Yeah.
So I think that's going to be difficult. But again, you're a threat, and I really like Lamina. I think he's such a good player, and he's looking a bit more of a threat, a bit more slightly advanced, isn't he? So
Yeah.
he's a player that I really like. So I'll back Villa. I'd say 3-1 is what I think. We did a little tactical analysis, and we noticed that in the last three games, averaging like 14 shots against you, and that's quite a lot of shots, isn't it? And I
Mm.
think if that happens on Saturday, then we're probably going to take a couple of them shots. So yeah, I'd say 3-1. What do you think?
Ugh. I don't know. Like I've always been very positive going to Villa Park, and before last season, we had a really good record there. But I think with that sort of run over, we've been quite poor, and you boys on form. I think it is going to be a tricky game. I think my head is probably saying a 2-1 Villa, but my heart just thinks we're going to sneak a 2-1. So I think
Yeah.
I think every Wolves fan at the moment would take a point, mate. To be completely honest, we spoke about it on your channel. We're just sort of desperate at the moment, and we know we've still got a tough run. But we're hoping for some sort of reaction, especially after that Newcastle game and the Carabao Cup exit as well. But Luke, thank you for jumping on the channel. Where can people find you and your stuff if they wish?
Yeah, just on YouTube. So we've done a preview together on there as well. So you can check that out if anyone wants to go and have a look.
Yeah, no, brilliant. I'll make sure to leave a link in the description down below as well. And apart from Saturday, mate, all the best for the rest of the season. And
Yeah, you too. Yeah, I hope you sort yourselves out because
fingers crossed.
it's like you look at that league and we want Midlands teams to do all right, don't we? We don't want to see them languishing around wherever. So yeah, hopefully it picks up for you.
Yeah, on the topic of Barclaysman as well, the prime Barclays was when we had Albion and the Blues and Villa and Wolves all together. And with the way Blues are going, maybe they could join us soon. But Albion looking all right as well, so we may return to those days. So fingers crossed, if we stay in there, we can have some more Midlands derbies. But yeah, thanks a lot, Luke. I'll make sure I catch you on the reverse
Yeah,
fixture as well. But yeah, I'll see you
yeah.
soon.
Cheers, mate.
So big thanks to Luke. I'll make sure I leave a link to their podcast and YouTube channel in the description down below. And do let me know your thoughts, guys, if you are watching on YouTube, in the comment section down below. Who you think is going to get on well, what do you think the score is going to be, and maybe any lineup predictions as well. Any other big news before the start of tomorrow's game, be sure to follow us on all the socials at Talking Wolves everywhere. And until next time, be sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, leave us a 5-star review, and I'll catch you guys very, very soon.